Excellent. We are recording. All right. Welcome to our second info webinar for our 2025 LEED for Cities certification cohort. This is a pillar of USGBC's local government leadership program in partnership with the Bank of America. And this photo here is the 2024 cohort city of Philadelphia, who's the first to certify in that cohort, and they certified platinum. Today, I'm going to welcome you all and introduce our team members who will be speaking to you today, give you an overview of USGBC and our program, an overview of our rating system. I will speak about our certification cohort, and then we'll wrap up with a Q&A and next steps. This is the second cohort info webinar. And so for anyone that wants to revisit the first webinar, you are welcome to. We'll cover the same materials, but we'll have more time for Q&A. Okay, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our staff on the call today. We have Hillary Varnador, the Vice President of LEED for Cities in the U.S. Market Transformation and Development team, David Abel, Associate Director of Client Solutions, and myself, Mackenzie Mindell, the Fellow for the Local Government Leadership Program in U.S. Market Development Transformation and Development Program. And first, I will hand it off to Hillary.
Right. Thanks, Mackenzie. Hi, everybody. We're so excited for you to be here. We are in, 6 weeks maybe till applications are due for the 2025 LEED for Cities certification cohort. Happens to be on Valentine's Day this year, so it'll be easy to remember. So we're excited that you're on the call today and looking forward to see those applications coming in the coming weeks. So as Mackenzie mentioned, I'm in the U.S. Market Transformation and Development team at USGBC, and our team is overseeing the local government leadership program. What started in partnership with Bank of America back in 2019 as our certification cohort has expanded and evolved over time. A variety, I think I got muted, a variety of other programs that I'm going to talk about. But first off, I just want you to know, like USGBC, many folks are very familiar with LEED and our work at the building scale, but Mackenzie, David, and I, and others on our team are working on city or jurisdiction scale sustainability, so beyond buildings. And our focus is first off, getting LEED for Cities around the country and around the world in use and practice. But also, we've really built out a number of program offerings to expand leadership at the local government level, since a lot of this work is happening in cities, towns, and counties. So in the next couple of slides, I was just going to share a few other things that we're up to. So in addition to the certification cohort, we also have some other programs that will be rolling out around the country again this year. We rolled them out last year as well, so depending on where you live, you might have seen us in person. But we began doing regional leadership summits in 2024 as a way to get out around the country and see people in person, bringing folks together in community. And with those events, we also held follow-on LEED for Cities accelerators. The accelerators are really for folks that have had pretty much no experience with the program. It's a way to just get a basic understanding, kind of a 101 course. This year, we're going to be coming to California, Colorado, Iowa, and Massachusetts for these events. So if you live in any of those states or regions, I'm sure you'll hear from us along the way, but we're really looking forward to that. In fact, next week on our U.S. Green Building Council LinkedIn pages. We have USGBC's site, the main site, and then U.S. Green Building Council Market Insights. That is the site for our department. We'll begin to roll out information on those programs. We're going to California in February, so the first events will start to be loaded there for registrations and things like that. So you'll start to hear from us soon. This year, though, the accelerators will be spring and fall, And I mentioned Iowa. I do want to say it's a kind of a broader region for folks that are going to the Growing Sustainable Communities Conference in Dubuque. Anyone that will be coming to that conference will be doing one of the summits there as a pre-conference workshop, and the access to the accelerator will be open to anyone that comes to the conference. So you may not live in Iowa, but you might just be attending that conference. So hope to see a broader range of folks at that event specifically. Okay, next slide. I think, yeah, so I just kind of touched on these three main pillars of our program. We also do a lot of local government engagement work. Our colleague Paul Wessel is leading up engagement calls that we hold quarterly. We have a newsletter and things like that. You'll hear more about all the different things we do on the call today, but we're just excited you're here. I know over 95 people registered for the call. We had a little blip with the Zoom link, so luckily we're recording and we'll get it out to everybody that registered to be sure folks are on the same page. So happy you're here. Excited to hear your questions. When we get to Q&A, feel free to drop them in the chat along the way as well. I'll be on deck to answer things as David and Mackenzie are giving you more details about the rating system and the program. That's all for me, I think. Turning it over to David.
Great, thanks, Hillary. Hello, everyone. As Hillary said, my name is David Abel. I'm on the Client Solutions team here at USGBC, so I spend a lot of time delivering education and resources. And if everyone could stay on mute, that'd be great. Kind of just educating people about LEED for Cities and how it makes sense or meets kind of local goals. So I'm just going to do a quick few minutes going a little bit more in the nuts and bolts of the rating system before Mackenzie talks about the program and we can open it up for some questions. But feel free to drop questions in along the way. All right, next slide, please. So as Hillary said, we really want to emphasize this for anyone that's new to the program, that LEED for Cities, it goes beyond buildings, and we're not just looking at buildings, we're not just looking at government operations, but we're assessing sustainability at the community scale, so jurisdiction wide. This includes things that are owned and operated and managed and influenced by local government, and things that are not. And so the approach to the rating system is really taking stock of existing conditions, a baseline assessment, and using the results, the framework to help drive progress going forward. Next slide, please. So how do we measure this? How do we kind of talk about this comprehensive framework? And so this slide represents the framework of the rating system with the 7 main categories: integrative process, natural systems, transportation, water, energy, and materials, quality of life. And so within all of these categories, we have both prerequisites and credits that are what you assess your city through, right? And so these are the both broad subject areas and then the specific items that you dial into to assess yourself on. Next slide. Going a bit more granular. So we have, as you saw in that last slide, we have both prerequisites and credits. As it implies, every prerequisite is required. You have to go through all of them to be able to certify. You have to meet all the requirements. And so definitely as you're in this kind of scoping phase of applying for the cohort, we encourage you to at least take a look at these prerequisites. Everyone that has registered and gone through the program has met the prerequisites, but we definitely encourage you to just kind of do a quick check of, oh yes, we'll meet these and so on. So the prereqs are broken down into, I get muted. Thank you. So the prereqs are broken down into our base condition and a performance prerequisites. Next slide, please. Maybe, and maybe I dropped this in here before. So of course, getting your prereqs and credits is how you get points. Points is how you get to a certification level. And so just want to illustrate that the vast majority of the points come from your credits, the optional items, but the performance prerequisites do achieve points as well. Next slide. All right, so the performance prerequisites, again, required, you need to do all of them. There's 14 of these, right? And so they are all data points that are obtainable either locally or online. So things like transportation, which is vehicle miles traveled, water, and waste and greenhouse gas emissions are all typically held or owned either by the local government or a regional government, places that you can go to your partners and get the data points. Sometimes things like transportation and energy, we can find that info online through various tools. One that we've really found lately that's useful is Google's Environmental Insights Explorer. You can hop on there, put in your city, and grab your VMT numbers there as well. But these are all ones that typically you either have or you can obtain easily. On the quality of life category, we have performance prerequisites related to education, equitability, prosperity, and health and safety. Those are all online either through the US Census, the EPA's website, or the FBI's website. And so these are ones that are really quick and easy to obtain. So for the most part, performance indicators, really straightforward, pretty easy to obtain. And we just encourage people to kind of do a gut check and kind of see if they have them or they need to do some outreach to find them. Next slide. The other type of prerequisite is what we call our base condition prereq. The performance prereqs get you points. The base conditions get you no points, but they are required. And overall, these are you describing existing conditions related to water, power, and solid waste. And for the most part, this is stating that you meet here in the US state and local regulations as it relates to water, power, and solid waste. It might be a solid waste plan that you provide. It might be an annual report from your water utility. It's all pretty straightforward repackaging reports and things are already done to meet the LEED standards. But important again to highlight that we do have two types of prerequisites to ensure that you assess yourself community-wide one to kind of be able to certify. Next slide. So on the other side of the rating system, the credits, which are all optional, are the theory here is really that doing the credits, performing in the credits will drive the needle, move the needle forward of progress in those performance prerequisites. And the credits come in a variety of forms and have a lot of flexibility of how to obtain points here. So we have credits. We have credits that are outcome based, which I'll have some examples in a minute to talk through a little bit. And then we also have credits that are strategy based, so policies as well. But as people go through the certification process, we really encourage you to assess yourselves, measure yourself against every credit. Maybe you obtain it, maybe you don't obtain it. The way we talk about this is that it is a gaps analysis, right? That if you're not meeting that threshold or have that policy and that credit at this point in time, maybe that's something that you consider pursuing down the road. Next slide, please. All right, so some examples of the types of credits in the rating system. So our green spaces credit in the natural systems category has two different options. The first option looks at access to green spaces. So it's a quantitative based credit where we're asking you to show us kind of a green space per capita threshold, and you need to meet an access that, all parks are within X distance to all residents. And so that one is kind of, you assess yourself, see if you meet it or you don't meet it. And then the other option here that you can obtain points is, and focuses on an urban forestry master plan and how you manage kind of your urban forest that way. So again, a balance between policy and quantitative approaches. Next slide. Some more examples to talk about. Our energy and greenhouse gas emissions category has a net zero carbon and climate action credit. This is a credit that really acknowledges a ton of the work that's happened in the past few years, right? As far as it relates to climate action planning at the local government level. We've seen a ton of leadership and progress here. And this credit has several options baked into it to achieve points for making those plans, making those commitments as it relates to climate action. Next slide. So just a short flavor of some of the types of credits in there. And we also, as a part of the program, have tons and tons of tools available to you all. And at this point in your scoping phase, I definitely encourage you to look at the beta guide. We'll drop a link into the chat for that. And then the crosswalk tool, if you want to go to the next slide. This is a tool that is kind of the backbone of project management for the rating system. That the rating system is a lot, that there are several credits, several options within it. And this is the project management tool that we've created over the years to help you manage that process, to kind of essentially put the rating system from a PDF into Excel and identify, which credits are we going to pursue, who might be the person we go to get that information. Every year we share the crosswalk tool, and every year project teams kind of customize it to meet their needs. So this is the starting point for you to kind of use to at a high level assess yourselves and take time to map out kind of the process. And as Mackenzie will talk about, part of the leadership program, we go deeper on how to use these tools and really emphasize project management and how to move through the process. But yeah, so really high level and short overview of the rating system and the tools. But I'll shift things over to Mackenzie now, and please ask questions when that opens up here in a few minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, David. And real quick, just because I think some folks on the call may have a climate action plan with their local government, can you just quickly address, do you have to have a climate action plan already before you certify? Do you have to be a city? You could address those. Just I think some folks in the audience may.
Yeah, I mean, so we've definitely have had cities kind of all, we talk about like your sustainability maturity over time. We've had cities all across their journey come to the rating system and certify. And so no, you don't have to have a climate action plan. You might just be getting started, or you might be further along the way. It just depends. All right.
Thanks, David. All right. Okay, thank you, everybody, again for being here. My name is Mackenzie Mindell. I'm the fellow for the LEED for Cities Local Government Leadership Plan. It's just a fancy word for saying that I support local governments in the work of certification and throughout your process. So I like to say my sole existence here at USGBC is to support local governments alongside our team, Hillary, David, and Paul. So specifically about our annual certification cohort, this is a cohort supported by the Bank of America, and through their support, we've provided direct support to more than 100 U.S. governments representing more than 40 million people through this cohort, because we believe, as well as Bank of America, that leadership and adoption of climate action begins with local governments. We see time and time again local governments taking the lead, and the organizations in those communities, as well as individuals, continue to work toward aggressive climate action goals. Bank of America has invested more than $3.4 million to date and supported fellows like me. And it's really important to note that this becomes accessible for local governments because Bank of America subsidizes this work. To date, we've had many national cohort participants. You can see a list of them on the screen here. And this is as of 2024. You can see there are some states that don't have any cohort participants. It doesn't mean that there's no LEED certified cities, but those cities and counties and towns and villages perhaps haven't been in the leadership cohort. So it's a nice visual to see where you are on the map and what might be happening in your state. The program year for the certification cohort begins in April, but our application opens typically in December. We opened it a little earlier this year because there were folks across the US asking for that. The deadline for the application is February 14th, and the decisions are announced February 28th. Again, the program commences April 1st, And that first month really is about getting prepared, getting registered, getting the resources in place for certification to begin. And then we always kick off with a virtual cohort orientation around May 1st. I believe this year it'll be April 30th and May 1st. Then you graduate from the program March 31st. We do expect/encourage folks to try to certify within that program year. But some folks will certify earlier than the 12-month program. Some folks will certify a little bit later, depending on your unique circumstances. We try to get creative with presenting the programmatic content to make it more accessible and digestible to get through certification. So we often take the content throughout the rating system and build it out month by month, exploring the categories. We take considerable time at the beginning to make sure that you all do that sort of pre-work before you dig into the details of the rating system. But again, I like to note that some places like to certify faster. So a good example from this year's cohort is Philadelphia. They were the host city for Greenbuild this year, and they wanted to be certified ahead of Greenbuild in order to have their plaque ceremony at the Greenbuild conference. So they didn't, take it month by month. They had a much more accelerated pathway, but we do create resources based on your certification timeline goals and based on the goals you have for using certification. We end up at the very end with working with you if you haven't submitted for preliminary review yet, or taking your results forward and sharing with you the continued support that you'll have after the cohort. So after the program year for the cohort, we don't stop talking to you all. The support continues and the connection continues as well. So as I mentioned, some places have various timelines, whether you want to certify, for example, by Greenbuild. Greenbuild is at LA this year. So areas around California may be interested in that. But we also have places that certify on a different timeline for various reasons, including financial needs. So their budget year might end soon, and if they decide that they want to pay for the certification fee, then that city or county or town may have decided to expedite the process a little bit. Otherwise, we provide a 12-month program overview just to help with project management as we move along. So our program really reduces barriers to certification in many ways. Because of the Bank of America, we're able to provide a USGBC silver level membership, and we provide access to green building policy and advocacy support. And in our education platform, we have many videos and online courses to take as it relates to education tailored to local governments. You have access to a USGBC liaison and various subject matter experts. We provide monthly cohort calls and optional technical assistance office hours, not just for the cohort, but any local government around the world that is certifying. And it's another great opportunity to connect with other local governments who are doing this work. We provide those customized certification pathways based on the needs and the goals of the local government. As I kind of asked to David earlier, some places don't have climate action plans. They use certification to build out their climate action plans. Some places have a climate action plan, but they want to update it, or they want to work on their implementation plan. And so there are many ways to use certification. We do also assist in helping with your public relations and marketing after you certify. And there are many other ways that we support local governments throughout this process. This is a nice quote from Philadelphia I like to share, where they felt like the certification goal and deadline could not have been accomplished without working with our program team. And I think that's a really helpful and unique part of our program team is we know that you all in local governments often have one-person shops. And so it's nice to have support of our team to help you feel like you're not the only person working on this work. As I mentioned, you all would receive a silver level membership, which comes with many benefits, including all the benefits tailored specifically for local governments. And you engage with our peer-to-peer learning community, which really is one of the highlights of the program, because as I mentioned, all these local governments have varying population size and staff capacity. And so whether you have a solid climate office of 10 people, which is extremely rare, or you have just one person in your house within the planning department, we have the resources to help support you in accomplishing your goals. We also do curate tools for local governments, and these resources are built out based on what we hear local governments say they need the most. These are some of my favorite, and they are online. They will be linked to you in the follow-up email. As I mentioned, places and participants use certification results and gap analysis to inform implementation and advance progress. They also, many folks will use our rating system as a guide for their global standards to use, or examples of what is the best practice to use in ordinances, and so on and so forth. Celebrating certification is a big deal, and we like to make sure we reward progress, collaboration, and build momentum, not only within the local government, but across the community. And we find this process really helps build buy-in across jurisdictions. I mentioned too, we provide PR and marketing support at certification. So we do have a guide, and we also build out case studies for each certified city. And that will be presented on our usgbc.org resources directory and project directory, where every local government that certifies has a specialized webpage on our website that you can connect to your website. By and large, participants value our program because we make certification less of a lift. When you hear about building certification, oftentimes consultants or the designers of the project certify the building, the owner doesn't. But for local governments, there's a lot less capacity to do this work for various reasons. And so we like to build our program to support you all in your certification goals, as well as reduce costs. And so because of the Bank of America, we're able to provide that free membership and registration, and then offer local governments to let us know if they need the certification fees waived as well. And that's part of the application. As I mentioned, our application is live, and we do have the first webinar posted on the website if you want to go back and review that, as well as our slide deck. And then the application is there as well. Our application is designed to be very easy. We know you all are busy, and so we don't want you to spend a lot of time on your application. As always, you can reach out to us with questions on your application or ask it in this call. With that, we will jump into Q&A, and I am happy to stop sharing so that we can see each other and ask questions that way. All right, any questions? I see there's some questions in the chat. See some shout outs, New Haven. Julie in Houston, have some folks from all around the globe today.
Maybe we can start to talk about some common questions while people are getting their questions organized. I know sometimes we get the question just about when the applications are due. They are due on February 14th this year. We didn't set a time zone because we know you're all on different time zones. So just get it in by that day, whatever the end of your day is. Sooner is better for our stress level, so we know what's coming in, but that is the end this time. David, what are some other common questions that we get, maybe about what to put in the application and how much to write and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, concise and to the point, right? Just like when you get to the application of the actual certification, that's what we say too. But I think in the application, we're really looking to see that you have support from leadership, right? That the successful certifications have support from the broader city and a strong team. It could be a two-person team. It could be sometimes it's a city kind of citizen commission that leads the effort too. So just a strong team to support the effort is something we really like to see as well. And then, like I said earlier, that you've looked at those prerequisites as well, like 0 size. So
Yes.
there's no limit on the city sizes. We've had, Houston has certified, other really huge cities, and then as small, Hillary said, as small as 500 people, right? So there's pros and cons to both, right? I mean, people are like, my city is, we're too big. It'll be hard to go through this, or we're too small. And there's things that are easier for small places and things that are easier for large places. So it really varies, certainly.
Yeah, I noticed on the call we have cities, counties, villages, and towns. They all can certify, and I know some folks, some local governments that are very small maybe don't have the capacity to do a greenhouse gas inventory, which are required for the performance prerequisite. But it's worth noting that if your county has a greenhouse gas inventory done, then you can use that. We've also seen in some instances that the MPO or the COG will have a greenhouse gas inventory or the data required, and we can use that to proportionate to the local government. What other commonly asked questions are there? We do have a question that just came in asking if there are participants outside of the USA. We do have global participants. For this particular cohort is US based, but you are more than welcome to certify outside of the US, and we do have some resources for making that easier in terms of the common indicators we ask for.
Yeah, if folks represent a city, local government outside of the US, I put in the chat earlier that you can send a note to cities@usgbc.org and give us your contact information, and we can connect you with our international colleagues. We as the US team have put together kind of a certification cohort template that can be used in other parts of the world to build out a program like this. But in part, we're looking for where the interest is, which countries or regions are really looking for this type of thing, so that maybe we could focus a pilot in the future. As well as identifying partners like Bank of America in the US, looking at other partners around the world that could partner with us and our colleagues at GBCI. So, yep. Glad to see everyone on the call, though. And just to clarify, this is for local governments. So I know many folks come to this looking at the neighborhood scale or the district scale. The LEED for Communities program is at a different scale. So we're working at the jurisdictional scale. So at the the boundary of the city or the boundary of a county or region. So thinking about the type of project that the scale that we're working at, it's at that entire jurisdictional scale. So that's what we're looking at deploying eventually in global cohorts. But this year, this program specifically is US.
Hillary, do you want to answer Natalie's question? Does the certification process have a specific cost for local governments?
Yeah, certification review through GBCI is $8,000. It's a two-part process. There's preliminary and final review, each of which takes 5 weeks of time, with the gap in the middle being your opportunity to take their comments back and prepare your final application. So the $8,000 is for that double process with GBCI. And that's for all LEED for Cities local government projects.
Good questions. And I think we mentioned this earlier, but Hillary, can you just touch on, for the application, if there is a financial barrier for that certification fee, how do they get past that?
Yeah, there's a section in the application just to request the financial support through the grant that we have through Bank of America. So, in the past, this program was fully covering all participation fees, but we realized that a number of local governments coming through the program did have budget and did have the capacity to pay for the certification review fees, which allows us to include more communities, more cities in the program, as well as do more with the support from the bank. It helped us to expand those other program offerings, the summits and the accelerators, and bring a lot of new projects in last year. In fact, we doubled our registrations in LEED for Cities in 2024 because of the number of cities that were able to pay their certification review fees through the cohort. So that freed up revenue so that we could expand the program. So yeah, that's the big picture. But if you do not have budget, or you're in, maybe you're in a department that doesn't have a lot of budget, or you've already expended it for the year, we can do a couple of things. We can work with you on budget. If you want to split up the fee, pay maybe $4,000 in one budget cycle and $4,000 in another, that's an option. Or we can, obviously, if you have any financial burden, just write about it in the application and let us know what your local conditions are. We'll work with you.
David, do you want to address how long it takes for mid-sized cities to go through certification?
Yeah, I mean, no standard answer. It's dependent on kind of access to data, knowledge of staff, things like that, and kind of support. But so one thing, the exciting thing is in 2023 we had a pretty major rating system update occur, and since then the process has sped up. It took longer before that, and now the cohort that is going, the 2024 cohort, we've had one certification and several others are on the cusp of submitting, and that's at looking at that kind of 10 to 12 month timeline. So we'll go with 12 months. It can happen sooner, like Philadelphia submitted in 3 months, or it can take longer.
Yeah, it depends on, so there's those performance prerequisites that we mentioned earlier on the call, and we really recommend that folks work on those right away, because that sort of data request can linger a little bit. Or, if you don't have your greenhouse gas inventory done, or you're in the process, obviously you wouldn't be able to submit for prelim review until you have, the required data in there. But I would say, like David mentioned, it depends on capacity. Although there have been one-person sustainability shops that submit pretty quickly as well. So just because you have one person doesn't mean it will take a really long time. Other questions?
We should ask the audience who's planning to apply if they want to put it in the chat. That would be interesting to know. Very selfish question of mine, but
Yeah, anyone on the call
ringers,
who's
any
been
that we
pondering, applying? We do have another question as well. Where would we go to see credits for materials used? Thank you, Robert. I assume you mean the guide.
I'll put the I will put our main Lead for Cities site in chat.
Yeah, I dropped the guide in earlier as well. And then
Okay, you did.
Yeah, the credit library is also. If you just want to hop online
Yep.
and sort through the credits, go there.
Thanks.
The link I put in just takes you, since it has hashtag tools, it takes you to the bottom of our website where all of our guides and publications and tools are. You can get rid of the hashtag tools part if you want to be at the top of the page. And then David put in the credit library if you want to click around and see what specifically is in the rating system.
All right. We are happy to take any more questions that you may have on the call. Otherwise, as Hillary mentioned, if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to us at cities@usgbc.org. And if you do plan on submitting, you're more than welcome to share an email letting us know your intent to apply. You don't have to wait until February 14th to apply. You can apply anytime. On our website, we do have the first webinar. We'll post the second one, and there are many resources on there that may help answer your questions. Otherwise, thank you all for joining our call today. Again, apologies for the broken Zoom link, but glad that you all were able to make it. We appreciate your time, and we hope you have a great day.